Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you might be able to tell, I don't have much of a voice today, which is a fact that's being celebrated many places around here. I won't spend a lot of time questioning because I have questions for the record that I would like. I know that Senator Manchin touched on the acquisition process. I would certainly recommend to the members of this committee and to the leaders in our military the report that was issued by the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations under the leadership of Senator McCain and Levin, where they took information from a variety of important experts about our acquisition process, and particularly the challenges that the bifurcation represents between the civilian and the military, and how awkward that has been and how frickin' expensive it's been in the long run. That's a technical term, that frickin'. I figure I can say that since I can't talk. I will just use this time to briefly ask one question. And one of the things I have discovered as I have done an enormous amount of work in the area of acquisition, and by the way, getting rid of sequestration, I think, is maybe the most imperative bipartisan challenge we have in the Senate. And it is a bipartisan challenge, and we're going to have a lot of them. And how we on this committee step up in a bipartisan way to try to address it, I think will be very meaningful. But one of the problems in the military is that it is based on leadership and your ability to be promoted. And what positions you have are relevant to whether or not you're promoted. And there's kind of the short stick to get to be a systems manager. And so what happens, these program managers, they don't want to hang out in those jobs because they get all the heat when things go wrong. They are not seen as bright and rising stars within the military. It's not the career path that is the most desirable, whether you're back in the days when we couldn't get the companies to even give anybody with authority that clipboard to check on contracting, the Corps representatives. I mean, when I started doing this, you know, it was the lamest member of the company that was handed that clipboard to do the contracting checks. So I would love, if not now, but in writing later, how you all believe you can elevate these positions so they're seen as part of a trajectory of success within the military. Because until we get quality leaders running these acquisition systems, these programs, we're going to continue to struggle with costs that we just frankly can't afford in this country anymore. And I've only got 3 minutes left, so if any of you want to take a stab at that, that would be great, and I apologize for my voice.
Senator, we're very aware of the issue you just brought up in terms of ensuring that in certain parts of our service they have the ability to move up and get rewarded for the work that they're doing. And we manage it very carefully. And, you know, with our acquisition core specifically, we have management guidelines that we're attempting to follow. For me, it's more about, it's not only that, but it's more about the mixture of experience between acquisition and operational experience. And that would help also in that area where we make sure we have that dual experience. And we've moved away from that a little bit, where we make somebody an acquisition officer very early on. But that said, we have put programs in place to ensure that their promotion rates are at least equal. But with that said, I believe we have to constantly review it, look at it, and ensure that they are having the opportunities for promotion. And I will respond in writing in more detail.
Ma'am, in the Navy, we have a corps called Acquisition Professionals. It's not literally a corps, it's a subspecialty. And it's in statute how they're promoted and what jobs they are required. But we need to do some work in there. Number one, the report of fitness is very similar to an unrestricted line officer. So the attributes that they are evaluated on don't match up with the reality of what they do day in and day out. We need to revise that. That's in progress. I'm working with our acquisition professional. Number two, we need to cross-pollinate. People who may not be acquisition professionals need to serve with them and understand what do they do so that as we go back and forth and describe what I need and what they need, how their reality, we need to understand that so we can do better. Number three, The assignment process needs to be, it's like a conga line right now. We need to go in and find out who are, to your point, who are these people who are performing very well? Get them in the right job, keep them there so that they can develop the program and we're not just shifting people through there. And then lastly, encourage our program managers to come forward. The program's not going well. We've got to evaluate them and actually reward them for coming forward and say, I got a problem here. Because what happens is they fill in the data and they say, check it out, doing well. I got to get out of here before this thing goes bad. And then the poor person that comes in and it explodes gets the heat.
Senator, I think this is it's a fascinating area for study. I spent about 2.5 years in the acquisition business, and the thing I walked away with is my primary lesson was I didn't understand any of the rules when I left any more than I did when I walked in. It's complicated, but what I did understand is the quality of the people we have in the acquisition business in the Air Force. It's a specialty for us. We get a lot of people actually wanting to come into the Air Force as young acquisition and contracting officers. The talent level is phenomenal. Where we start to lose them is when they become disconnected in their duties, when they get to the mid-career with what the rest of the Air Force is doing. They don't feel that they are critically important to the big Air Force. They feel they're critically important to their program. And not having that connection is a big problem, in my view. We have a number of general officers who are acquisition officers. We have some who are contracting officers. So there is a path for them if we can make them want to stay long enough to enjoy it. It's tough work. You have to be very talented to do it well, and we have to make sure they understand that they're critically important to the Air Force. This is where that civilian-military connection, I think, will make a big difference if we can get it right. They have to feel like we're all in the same Air Force, not that they're in a separate section that's just buying things for us. That won't work over time.
Senator, I think we have a similar construct to what Admiral Green had talked about with the Navy, and I understand the question you're asking. I don't have anything to add that the other chiefs haven't already said, but we will take the time to respond thoughtfully in writing.